You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. Oh, I love June. It's hot, it's dry, it just feels good. I don't know, some of you think I'm crazy, but I like warmth. I like sunshine. I like to be out there and take in the sun rays, get rid of that vitamin D. I just want to take in the sun. And a lot of your plants are like that this time of year as well. And so your crepe myrtles and your rose of Sharons and your hibiscus, there's smoke bush are in full bloom right now at the garden center. We've got Elaeagnus, which is a great native plant. Cotoneasters, again, another native hardcore plant. Sumacs are starting to show up, including the staghorn sumac, which looks like a mountain palm tree. You know, palms don't grow that well up here. They don't grow up here. But sumacs do. And there's a tall one that has this ferny looking frond to it that's just stunning and super drought hardy, and animals don't eat those. And so one I really wanted to cover with you this segment is lavender. This is the time when you want to put your lavenders in. You're very tall, the bigger, shrubbier herbs. So lavender is a nice silver foliage. It can be blue. There is a variety that's green. Your fern leaf lavender is more green. They all have typically a blue to purple flower, although there are some pink and some white varieties, which are quite striking, quite interesting. But there are 5 basic types of lavender. I thought I'd mention the 5 just so you know, and they all grow up here. They all do exceptionally well. They'll like bright sun. They'll like it dry. In fact, the only way to really kill a lavender is if you water it. They do not like to be overwatered. Put it in the gardens and treat it like you would a rose bush or a tree or a shrub. Don't treat it like your tomatoes or your peppers or your vegetable garden. Treat it more like a peony or a bigger shrub, and it will thrive. Some of my most beautiful lavenders are in containers, big ceramic pots, because they're evergreen. So even in midwinter, yeah, they're not blooming, but the foliage is quite striking. And so they look handsome anytime, any month. But right now they are in full bloom. And so the 5 different varieties, probably the most famous because it's the hardiest. It's also one of the biggest. And so English lavender, it has a tall, wispy flower, great kind of silver foliage, a mounding plant up to, knee high, maybe just a touch bigger, but it gets wider, so 4 or 5 feet round. Great landscape plant. So it gets you nice filler. You could put it right there in a rock lawn, and it just still loves the radiant heat. Put it up against a wall, let the sun on the south side just bake it, and it just is happier. It will bloom better. And the reason it's got that silver or blue foliage is it coats the foliage in this fuzz, this material that keeps it from perspiring, keeps the sun off the foliage. So it's very thrifty on how it uses water, yet it blooms like crazy. And all lavender have that fantastic fragrance. They're actually good at repelling insects like mosquitoes, flies, things that, they just repel things off the patio. So that's why I like to put them in containers off of my decks and patios. They take that heat, reflective heat, and in the evening, I'll kind of hose them off, a little bit of mist of water. That fragrance fills up the patio area. All my guests kind of go, "Oh, you're such a gardener. It smells so good back here." And all the flies go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this to us again." They just leave the area. It's a great plant for that. So English lavender, the reason it's a landscape plant is because it takes on the cold. It's the roughest, most tumblest, the most dynamic of all the lavenders because they're just so robust. But they're not the prettiest because they're so large. It's hard to take in that beauty. The smaller they get, the more petite they get, they look cuter. You can just capture in a picture and put them on the front of Instagram, and they just go, oh, look at that, a lavender. And so in that respect, Spanish lavender is more popular. I wouldn't say it's better. It doesn't bloom quite as long. It's smaller. It's tough, but it has that more pom-pommed looking, bigger flower, shorter flower to it. Same foliage, but it gets tighter, more condensed. So maybe it's half the size. Maybe it gets up below knee high, 12 to 18 inches by 12 to 18 inches. Nice little mound to it. Looks great in perennial gardens. Butterflies love it. It's a great little plant. And when it loads up with flowers in the spring, it just is magnificent. So in that respect, it's a little bit more Mediterranean, thus Spanish lavender, as opposed to English lavender, which is a colder climate. So that's a Spanish variety. Still tough. They both grow well. In fact, they would look good together. Put an English in the back of the garden, put a Spanish towards the front, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a garden, a lavender garden. You can collect lavenders like that. French lavender, go down in the Mediterranean a little bit further. French lavenders, those are the ones you make potpourri out of. They've got thicker, chubbier foliage to them. They have more oils. And so that's the one they typically will get bunches of them and put them in bundles, put them in your closet. They repel moths and that kind of stuff. Actually, all lavender does that. But French lavender is most famous for that. It's also the wimpiest. Nothing against my French friends. They're just not as hardy as the Spanish or as the English varieties. So if you get a real cold winter, or if you're at a higher elevation, your Groom Creek or Highland Pines or Williams or these areas, you want to definitely go with the English varieties. As you come down in altitude, you can introduce more Spanish. And as you go down towards, let's say Humboldt, Dewey, Cordes Junction, those areas, you're down the hill towards Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Sedona, French is great for you because you don't get quite as cold. And so they'll be more perennial. So it just depends on which ones. But if you want that potpourri, go for the French. Then we've got sweet lavender. It's very much like the English lavender, but it's pretty much the same. The scent is more musty flavor to it. Just has a different kind of flower. Same purpley, but it kind of waves in the wind, but it has a sweeter, mustier, it's hard to describe. But there is a definite sweet lavender variety. And then fern leaf lavender. This is it's got greener foliage. It's bigger. It gets real tall. In fact, many of your fields of lavenders are going to be the fern leaf because they get much larger. Big, long flowers, great fragrance, and the foliage has this fern looking. It's very different looking. Same fragrance, but different look to it. So if you like textures and patterns, that's the kind of lavender you go with. You just need bigger ones. So the big ones are going to be fern leaf lavender, then English lavender, then sweet lavender, going down to Spanish lavender, and then finally French lavender is the smallest, cutest of them all. And they come in different colors, each of them. This is a great time to be planting lavender in your gardens. If you just want fragrance, if you have a hole in the garden, those cosmos finally gave up. You're going, oh man, I'm tired of those ratty things blowing over the wind. Lavender, they're your ones. And the beauty with lavender, animals don't bother them. So rabbits and deer and javelina and antelope, they don't have no interest in that fragrance. In fact, it repels them. They don't like it. Yet butterflies, hummingbirds, bees, they're truly a hardcore pollinator kind of herb. So herbs are really good here in the mountains of Arizona. The reason being, it's cool at night, very bright during the day, which they love, and it's dry. Herbs love dry climates, so they're less likely to melt down. So you've had problems with your thymes, your oreganos, the basils in the past, other areas which are humid. They'll tend to grow up and flop over, and they get black spots, and they just have issues. Here, we don't have any of that. And most of our herbs are true perennials. They come back year after year. And not all of them. Okay, fennels maybe a little off. Basil, definitely, it can come back by seed. It's not going to come back from the actual roots. It's a good, strong grower. It's not a true defined perennial, but all the mints, they're all perennial. They're tough as nails and great plants for the yard. in your yard. Okay, that's it for this segment. We got a lot in store for you, but we have Lisa Watters Lain coming in with your garden questions after this.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Watters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Watters all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Watters Garden Center in Preston.
And we are back at the Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, and my wife of a couple of years, still madly in love.
Yes.
Yes, we are. So anyway, after several decades, 4 kids, 6 grandkids, we're still selling plants here at Watters Garden Center.
Yep.
And part of that is we start to hear from your neighbors, your friends. We start answering emails and Facebook posts and comments and the questions. What are other people talking about? And so we have this segment that just comes in and shares what your neighbors are talking about. Did I kind of summarize that pretty well?
I think so.
Well, good. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Glad you're in the studio.
Good to be here.
How are your gardens looking, by the way?
Ours are looking really good.
I would agree.
Ours are doing well.
Yeah, they're like over the top. I did have to fertilize. So I saw that I had some bugs, some caterpillars were eating the budworms, were eating the petunias.
I hate
And so
those things.
I spritzed them with spinosad soap. So there's a special organic soap we have that's just for caterpillars. Highly effective. Oh, I was impressed. But I hit the flowers of being eaten with that. And then I hit them with flower power fertilizer. And boy, it's been 7-10 days, they're back at it going, okay, you took the caterpillars out, fertilized me, I'm just going to bloom my little hearts out.
Yeah, that's nice. It is a good time to kind of preview your yard and look for insects. Some spider mites are out.
Yeah.
There's still some aphids going on, budworm. So it's a good idea to get out there and check those things out.
Everything is growing fast right now. So you don't want to wait a couple days. Oh, I'll go to the garden center this weekend. It's Monday. Well, by the time it's this weekend, your caterpillars might eat all of your tomato plant. They might take all of your flowers. So either have it ready on the shelf. So that's what we do. We just have it sitting there. We know we're going to get caterpillars. We know we're going to get mildew. We just know we're going to see spider mites. It's just part of the game in the mountains of Arizona. It's part of gardening. It's outdoor living.
Nature.
And so when I see that, I go, oh, I got this soap, zip, zip, fertilize it, and away we go. But don't wait a week or two, or you might have to come in and replace the entire plant, which I don't mind that. But for my friends, the listeners, we want you to be successful and just have it waiting to go and be ready and just watch things bloom.
I had a gal yesterday that had a butterfly bush that was just coated in spider mite.
Oh no.
You can tell because it has like this glove thing that shrinks around it. I was like, oh my. So we decided, just what you said, we're going to toss that one and start fresh.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be easier that way, or just almost less expensive because you're spritzing every day for like a week. I don't know. Sometimes it's easier to start over. I had the same thing with a customer. They had a native juniper, a big one. I mean, a big alligator juniper. And it had the same thing. Spider mites were so bad, it was just coating this white
film.
Yeah, it was like a spidery webby thing.
Yeah.
And you can't start over there. So I said, okay, here's what we do. Here's a hose and sprayer. Here's the thing. I'll preset it for you. Just put this on the end of the hose, fill this up and spray it. Hit it like once a week until all that is gone, and then pray for rain and fertilize it with all-purpose plant food, and your tree will be fine. And I'm sure it will be fine.
Right.
But if you left it unchecked, they'll strip that tree of all of its foliage and it will starve to death. Literally, it won't have enough tissue to have photosynthesis to create sugars. And anyway, it's just, if you have problems, come see us earlier rather than later, because everything grows fast right now.
Including the bugs.
Anyway, what kind of questions we got?
Sure. So Tom wants to put in Aspen. He wants to know, what's the advantage of a clump opposed to a single?
Yeah, good question.
And then also, what's the soil that they like? And what's he looking at water-wise for that first
Yeah, so
season?
Tom, those are great questions. So aspens are one of the number one, maybe it's our number 2 selling tree here at the garden center. Of course, we're in Aspen country. In Prescott, Arizona, your Aspen Creek is right there. It's Spruce Mountains full of aspens. They naturally grow down to our level, but they will continue to grow if you put them on irrigation, all the way down to, I've seen them in Cornville and Humboldt and Skull Valley and those areas. So you can go all the way down to like 4,000 foot level, but you'll have to irrigate them. At the higher elevation, the Groom Creeks, the Walkers, the Williams, you get them rooted and they'll go by themselves. Quite honestly, they even look better when you take care of them. And so, with that being said, question was single trunk or multi-trunk? Well, let's explain this, Tom. You've got 2 types of multi-trunks. There's some that are farmed. That is, they're grown exact replicas. They're exact copies. They're perfect specimens. That's what you want. Then there's ranchers that are clearing some land. They've got a grove of aspens. They go out there with some shovels and start digging them up out of the ground, and then they put them in a bucket and they bring them in, and you'll find those for sale. They look very uneven. The trunks are very scarred. They got that black marking on them. And quite honestly, they get brutalized when they get dug up. They aren't rooted out well enough. I think you're better off buying a farm-bred, farm-raised aspen. Of course, that's all we sell here at Watters Garden Center, because we want the perfect tree in every yard. And so look for those 2 things. Now you come down to single trunk or multi. The most common is 3 trunks in 1 container. We'll plant the aspens in a row, and then we'll harvest those as they're smaller, and we'll plant 3 exact copies in this bucket, and then we'll root them out for another 2-3 years, and then we grow them on until they're flushed out. And so now you've got a clump aspens, and they are just cookie cutter. I mean, like, you'll look down the row and go, oh, they're all pretty. Which one do I get? Well, get them all. We'll just help you. Then you get the single trunk, which there's a place for those. So the way I spot or design with single trunked aspens, if you got a beautiful vista off your front porch or off a deck, you're overlooking Granite Mountain or some valley, I'll usually use those as kind of like picture frames. I'll put one on this side, one on that side, and I'll actually force your eye and like a picture frame down the driveway and look out over this vista, and it's spectacular. So you use them in different, or down a property line where it's real kind of tight. You want a tighter tree, but tall. I'll plant them down the property line. So there's places right off the patio. So you want something that doesn't get too wide, but gives you some shade. That's where you put those. But quite honestly, most will probably sell 3 to 1 multi-trunked over single trunked, but they're both available. So anyway, Tom, get down here and talk to us. We'll give you the grand tour, and rather than some emailed questions, we can actually walk you through and guide you through the whole process.
Definitely. All right. Sandy has a hydrangea that some of the blossoms have done their thing. They've bloomed out. Right. She wants to know, how do you trim that back? Do you trim it like you just popping the blossom off? Do you trim it all the way back to the base? How do
does it say where she's from?
No.
Okay. Well, okay. Sandy.
Somewhere in the Quad City area.
So hydrangeas. So this is a shade-loving plant. So you've had it on the back patio, the north side, under the canopy of trees, and they have been in bloom for, 2 months. It's been amazing. And so when that big pom-pommed flower starts to fade, you can cut that back just below the flower where the foliage is about to start to come up. So don't go crazy. Don't go right back to the base. Just take the flower off, cut it off, and then fertilize it with Flower Power. It's a water-soluble food that we make here. Flower Power that, and it will start to form another flower. Hydrangeas do benefit from deadheading or pinching the spent flowers off. A lot of your perennial flowers are very much like that, but especially hydrangeas, they'll pulsate through flowers like that if you keep taking that spent flower off. I would say likewise, roses. They've been in bloom since April. So May, June, it's now virtually July. Some of those old spent flowers, cut those off. Don't go crazy. Don't go right down to the base. Just down to where the new foliage comes out, maybe even shape it a little bit so it keeps the form right. Fertilize it with flower power, and it will start taking off with a whole nother set of flowers is what you'll get out of that. So keep it blooming simply by taking it cleans it up so it looks better. Mm-hmm. Then it also forces it to, don't you focus on putting on seed or that old spin flower. You focus on brand new flowers and more butterflies and hummingbirds. Focus on beauty, not on dead flowers. Anyway, that's how you do hydrangeas. Okay. Good questions. So Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.
Watters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
So you can almost count on the mountains of Arizona that we're going to have rain. We never know how much, but there is a monsoonal pattern, this tropical moisture. So it's coming up through Mexico. You can see it's hitting the border of New Mexico and Arizona right now. So it starts in Texas, hits eastern New Mexico, kind of float. Now it's in western New Mexico, and it's days away from us. You can watch it on the Weather Channel radar. It just comes up. And we'll count on it. It's going to happen. It's usually in July, usually July 4th. It's somewhere in there. I know the weather people, they say, oh, no, it's the end of June. That's when it officially starts. Well, I don't know where, but it's not over my gardens. But it does hit sometime a week or two after that. And so this is an advantage for you. So some of your plants, they were new. They've leafed out. Their leaves are starting to get thicker. They're still growing. And so you can fertilize right now to really double down on their root structure, to get more girth on their trunks, to have more stem sturdiness, to actually have more blossoms on some of your plants, especially those that repeat bloom, like roses, hydrangeas, all these different kinds of plants. They benefit from a food and the rain that's coming. So the secret is, don't wait for the rain before you fertilize. Put it on just before. So when that first rain comes, it goes right down through the rock, through that fabric, around the root structure, and just fertilizes the plants. Literally, it's a second growing season. This will be some of your most ideal time to be putting in trees. Because back in the spring, February, March, April, you're buying aspens and maples and crepe myrtles, and you had crab apples and red buds. They were all great, but they were all small. And then they had new foliage. They've been growing. Now you come in and we've had them at the farm. We've restocked. Now they've got 3 extra more feet of growth. So you get a bigger tree. And now you've got maybe the blossoms are done for the spring blossoms for crab apples and red buds and, service berries, some of those, but you're getting ready for the root structure and the extra growth on those trees, especially shade trees or privacy screens. This is a great time. Main thing is, if you've got a yard that just looks a little stressed, this is an opportunity to get them unstressed, to help nurture them along. And so there's 2 things I'm doing with my gardens right now, the landscape, especially established things, is I'm I'm providing for them this Lush food, 744 all-purpose plant food. It's an organic food. The main ingredient in that is bird guano, bird poop. It's a great nitrogen source. So if the leaves are a little tattered, they're a little small, you just want another flush of growth, bird guano is perfect. Secondly, the second ingredient is cottonseed meal. So if you want a plant that has bigger flowers, more fragrance, if you're a rosarian, you give cottonseed meal to your roses right before you enter them in the county fair because you want a bigger, more fragrant flower. That's what you do. So if you want more root structure, more fruits, more blossoms, cottonseed meal. And then we put some iron, some sulfur, some other goodies in there, but it's pelletized, so it spreads through a spreader, all natural. And so it's safer for your pets, your birds, and it is great for your landscape. The reason being, Synthetic foods like your turf builders, these big, ortho things, they as soon as you get one rain, they just release all at once. And then they're gone in just 2 or 3 weeks. In fact, most of that food flushes down the waterway because we get all of our rain in these gully washers, picks up that food and kind of makes it dissolve and washes downstream. So you're doing your neighbors more of a favor than you, or you're just polluting our water stream. Organics don't do that. They break down slowly over a longer period of time, which your plants love. They prefer that. Your worms prefer that. And so I'm putting all-purpose plant food on everything in the yard, including, and I think most importantly this year, the native plants, especially your junipers, pinyon pines, ponderosas. These native plants, they got so stressed last spring, late winter, spring, they need some help. A little bit of food goes a long way. And then if you truly see something in the yard that's truly stressed, you're like, oh my gosh, it's losing leaves. It's yellowing. It looks wilty. I can tell it doesn't look like last year. Those plants, in addition to the all-purpose plant food, that's a no-brainer there. The second one I'm giving them is humic, Humic, humic acid. It's also granular. You put it down at the same time. It doesn't matter which one goes down first. But what humic does, humic acid, it feeds the soil. So the worms and the mycorrhizals, all the good stuff in the soil comes alive. And if the tree sees the soil's alive, that it's all going to be okay. I should send out more roots. If you want to increase the root growth of your plants, humic. If you want top growth, 744 all-purpose plant food. That's how you use those too. And you want them down, I would say, ASAP. I mean, like now, put the radio down, get over here, get a bag and put it on your yard. It's that important. You want to get it down because the rains are coming. Take advantage of that. Especially if you have brand new yards, they're just small plants. Get them to grow. That's how you do it. So take advantage of that. All-purpose plant food. All right, we got more coming. So Lisa Watters Lain coming in with her garden section right after this.
Watters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, purple verbena, crepe myrtle, and sensation maples.
Sensation maples grow fast. The spring leaves erupt with soft reds that quickly mature to a refreshing green for summer-long shade.
Autumn, it unleashes a brilliant display of red leaves.
Where this maple really shines is in the areas with challenging garden soils.
The picture-perfect tree to line driveways or shade a patio.
You'll only find Sensation maples here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
And we are back with Lisa Watters Lain in the studio, helping me out with the radio show each week for the last, how long have we been doing this? A lot of years, more than a decade, a lot of years. So got a lot of shows under our belt, and we've just been doing this, well, your entire life. I married in. Here's a quick story. So I've always loved gardening. So my mom, my grandparents, they loved gardening. They'd take me to the garden center. They'd take me to Watters Garden Center. And I just love garden centers and planting, gardening, and tomatoes and trees and shrubs and slinging rock and building walls, all that stuff. And so out of high school, graduated from PHS, go Badgers, here in Prescott. And I tried to get a job with your dad. Interviewed, and he said, no. And so I went, okay, I'm not working. I went to work for Sears instead. Still went into retail, just a big football player, delivering like refrigerators and sofas all around the county. So that's what I did. And then I married you. Mm-hmm. We got our degrees from ASU, go Sun Devils, teachers and business management folks. And we started doing our corporate thing, coming back to Prescott, Arizona. And we asked your dad, hey, can we have a job? And he was starting to look at, well, what am I going to do with this thing? Retirement. And so he said, yeah, you can have a job. And we came back to Prescott. And so that's the only way I had to bring you. The only way you'd hire me is if I married his youngest, most beautiful daughter. And then he'd say yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story. We're sticking with it. That's the
story, and he's sticking with it.
And if your dad was still here with us, he passed a couple of years ago. I'd tell him the same thing. Actually, he's heard that story many times. Mm-hmm. Anyway, love the garden center business. The customers, they're relaxed. This is like a highlight of the week for them. It's not a stressful thing like, how much lumber do I really need? Is this the right faucet? I have no idea. No, it's like, I love butterflies and hummingbirds, and I'll take 3 of those. So that literally that kind of mentality at the garden center.
Right. Very relaxing. Most of the time.
I don't know why I went down that path for 2.5 minutes. This is all about Lisa. She's sharing her garden tips, not my or our historical past.
So garden tips.
There
so
we go.
What's going on in people's yards? So right now the critters are hungry because we haven't had the monsoons to make all the natural growth. So there's a lot of critters out looking for some snacks, some food, some water.
Your landscape.
So, and you know, 1 or 2, but some of you are in parts of town where you have like herds of rabbits that roam through.
And they're still breeding. More coyotes, more bobcats.
So it behooves you to put in some plants that they're not necessarily going to be attracted to. That way you get to enjoy them and they're not the diet for the rabbit. So I pulled a couple perennials, but there's also, if you're into shrubs, there's a lot of shrubs. We have a great list, actually, our deer and rabbit resistant list. That is very effective. Now, nothing is 100% proof. It can't be. But there's a lot of things that are pretty tried and true on that list. But I just brought some pretty ones in to help show. Wow. So this is Gaillardia. Arizona blanket flower is the other name. It actually is a nice little wild flower for here. Does very well, likes full sun, can take a hot spot and just keep on going. What makes this rabbit resistant is the leaves are very fuzzy, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't
show up on camera. This is where it does pay to be watching the podcast rather than listening while you're driving or while you're tuned in. You can actually see the flower. It is gorgeous on camera, but I don't think I can pick up the fuzz. I can't quite see
but
that.
It's got that
hairs all over it.
Fuzzy, hairy leaf. So, you know, it's kind of, they're going to eat it and it's going to kind of get stuck in their throat and they're going to go, I'll move on to something else. Go visit the neighbor's house. But it's a pretty little wildflower that just blooms all season long. Just a great plant, and it
blanket flower. They call it blanket flower because it also reseeds, it spreads, and it starts to blanket that part of the garden. Looks fantastic in containers. Looks great out in the yard, a raised bed. It is truly an Arizona perennial. That is, it comes back year after year after year. It rests underground, then comes back fresh from the roots and from the seed. So it just spreads across the yard methodically. And javelina, deer, rabbits, things don't like the taste of this. This is also one more I can mention that this really benefits from deadheading or pinching off the spent flowers. If you do that consistently, it will pulsate waves of flowers for months, not just weeks. It's an amazing perennial. Every yard should have at least 3.
At least 3.
Gaillardia or blanket flower. Does this come in more than just this Arizona sunset color?
Yeah. It comes in like just a solid red. It comes in a one they call mango, which is kind of an orangey color. Its cousin, kind of the coneflower, is another really good animal resistant plant. And it also it's a good continual bloomer, loves the sun. But echinacea or coneflower is another one that would be a great companion plant with this. And they both be very animal resistant.
That is an amazing camera. I can't believe I can get that close and show off that flower. I think I could see the seed heads on that thing. That's crazy.
Yeah. Problem is it can also see our face and see every wrinkle.
No, I've got the filters on. It smooths all that out.
I don't think so. Another really good one is agastache, otherwise known as hummingbird mint.
Yeah.
And I think, is there another name? Hyssop is the other name that it goes by. This one's very animal resistant as well because the foliage has like a licorice smell.
Yeah, it does have a real minty,
so it has that minty,
smell.
licoricey that the bunnies don't like, and the deer and the javelina don't like either. So they just kind of leave it alone out there in the yard. Very pretty tubular little flowers that the hummingbirds adore.
They do like this. That's the name, hummingbird mint.
Right. And it comes in pinks, it comes in purples, it comes in oranges. yellows. I've seen
Yeah.
it in quite a few colors. A good companion plant to go with that would be your Salvia greggii or
Sure.
autumn sage. Another just tough plant that the animals leave alone. Another continual all summer season-long bloomer. And that one comes in pinks and purples and whites and reds and whites. And
this one I always think of, or I tell folks, this is like a mojito for hummingbirds. Because it smells, it sort of has that flavory look into it, and they just cannot get enough of it. They're thinking, parties over here, bring the chips and the salsa. This is where we're at. I frequently companion plant with this lavenders.
Oh, that would be good.
Because this has got that great green foliage.
Right.
It's a little bit taller, about hip high, just below hip high. But lavenders have this silvery, most of them, silvery to blue foliage.
Right.
So it's a great contrast, and they're just a click down, but the flowers are very similar, typically blues to purples. On the lavenders, this has got pinks, blues, yellows, that kind of stuff. It has a lot of different colors, but they really look good in the garden together. And they both love bright sun. Hit them with wind. Hit them with javelina. They're not going to bother any of these guys. They're just kind of bulletproof. Right. And they all come back year after year after year after year. So they're great. This looks great in a container. Yeah. On the back patio, or just right in the ground. Either one. I think I think more yards need hyssop or hummingbird mint in the yard, just because it's such a strong plant for you.
Oh, I would agree.
I did notice it too, that the swallowtails,
they like it.
They go after this. Yeah, swallowtail butterflies. It's one of those pollinator. If you're into pollinators, you want to attract more hummingbirds, butterflies, bees, save the planet kind of stuff, which we should all be thinking that way. This one is a great one for that. So hyssop, hummingbird plant, hummingbird mint, and what was the third one? Had 3 names for it?
Agastache.
Agastache. Yes.
Which is my favorite one to say.
Agastache.
Another good plant, if you're going with lavenders, is rosemaries.
Oh, yeah.
Because rosemary is very animal resistant.
Yeah.
It's evergreen for here.
Yeah.
You can go upright with like the Tuscan blues. You can go creeping. So if you got an area you want a ground cover in, the creeping rosemary is excellent for that.
Well, great suggestion. So we have here at the garden center, we curated several collections. We've got shrubs, just animal resistive shrubs, a whole table that just shrubs that they don't eat. And then we have the same thing for perennial flowers. So if you need some more suggestions, come see and just peruse yourself, and they're right there. Ken and Lisa Lain, the mountain gardeners, and the rabbit-proof plants you can find here at Watters Garden Center.
Watters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, crepe myrtle, and purple verbena.
Purple verbena is mountain famous for gorgeous summer-long flowers held over compact green foliage.
This purple bloomer loves bright gardens, summer heat, and grows best in poor soils with less water.
Go ahead and abuse this bloomer. You can't kill it.
The perfect native perennial for easy summer long flowers.
You'll only find the toughest verbena here at Watters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. So we have a new plant drop, so you can pre-order or reserve the different varieties of lavenders. We've got alliums, a new variety of Russian sage that's available. They're on their way. They're en route. They're just about finished at the farm, but we thought, we'll let people see what they are, and they can pre-order theirs, put their name on it. When they arrive, we'll just let them know, hey, they're here. Come pick them up. Part of that, if you're part of our garden club, this is how retail can be very personal. So we're trying to get very individual customer gardener here at Watters Garden Center. And so we created this. You're part of our club. We know who you are. We know what you like. We know what you bought. We know what your gardening is. We might even have conversations amongst the sales folks. So no, they got privacy issues, or they like herbs, or they're growing this kind of heirloom tomato. So part of the lavender thing, when we create this lavender drop, I created 2 handouts to go with, just for those folks that are buying lavenders, because I know you folks that grow herbs, you're unique, you're different. You like fragrance and beauty and butterflies, and you like potpourris and cooking and all these other things. So I created a lavender success kit. That is, here's how you plant
a lavender so it thrives. And here's the products you'll need to put them in the ground and have them just grow like crazy. Here's how you do it in the ground. And here's what you need if you put them in containers. And so when you come to pick your lavender up, we'll give you the success kit going, here you go. Don't just come get a plant. We're not selling plants. We're selling garden experiences here at Watters. Truly, we believe this at the very heart of our soul. We are not a plant shop. We are a garden love shop, an experience, fragrant shop, and beauty and style and color. We're that shop. We're a glass of fine wine, a cup of coffee in the morning, just enjoying the fragrance and the beauty. That's what we're creating. And when you are not successful, that's like torture. You might as well put a gardener in the bowels of hell, because that's what it's like forever in eternity. You get to watch plants die. That is not what we are all about. We are about success and beauty and fragrance and just successes. And if we can't help you be better with your plants, we failed. I mean, we failed as a family. We failed as a crew, as horticulturalists, as an independent garden center. We're growing finer plants. We go out of our way to get the right plants at the right time for the gardens here. We make sure they never get stressed. And part of that process is letting you have first dibs, so pre-orders, then making sure before you come in to get it, you get to, you know exactly how to plant that thing so you've got success, or at least the success rate doubles. You don't have to learn by making mistakes. We got most of that figured out for you. We've done the mistakes. Here's what we found out. This will help you. So we got that going out. So a lavender success kit. In addition, we've programmed, I wrote another one. I want to go over, that's this segment for you. I wrote a Lush lavender secrets. How do you keep a lavender blooming? And so we've got the computer. I mean, these databases are tracking. Oh, we know they bought a lavender. We know they're part of our club. So they want garden content. They want to be successful. So we've got a program 2 weeks after you bought it. It comes back and it sends you this Lush lavender secrets. Here's how you keep them blooming. And I wanted to go over that with you, because if you've got lavenders in your yard already, whether you bought one from us, pre-ordered, or you've had it in the yard for 10 years, matters not. I want you to be successful. You'll have more fragrance, more beauty, more butterflies, more blooms, and there are secrets to it. And here's what I've learned. Number one, lavenders really, really benefit from being deadheaded, or those spent flowers as they bloom. They've been in bloom for a month. And so, but it will come down to, they'll start pulsating, new flowers will start coming up below the original flush of flowers. And then the original flush will start to fade. What you do is you track that flower stem back down to the foliage, and you snip it off with a pair of pliers, pruners, scissors. I use my knife often, just my pocket knife works, anything. It's a very fine flower stem. Doesn't take much, especially if you're catching it while it's still vibrant and green, but the flower has faded. Just follow that stem back, not all the way back to the ground, but until you start seeing leaves, then just nip it off. So probably about once a week, every 2 weeks, you want to clean up all your lavenders. And it doesn't matter the varieties. Remember earlier, I mentioned the 5 types of lavenders: English, the sweet, the Spanish, the French, and the fern leaf. So these are 5 different varieties. They all grow here. They're all treated the same way. So you trace back that spent flower, cut it off as close to the foliage as you can. Otherwise, you'll get these dead stems that are sticking up. Looks kind of funky. You don't want that. You just want to get past below, down towards the foliage. And what you'll find is you'll start to see already new flowers coming back up. And so you're trying to prevent the lilac from focusing on seed. You want them focused on new flowers. So what will happen is they'll shift gears. Most perennials especially will do this. They'll start blooming their hearts out. They've been pollinated by the bees and the butterflies. The hummingbirds are just about done with these guys. They start to set seed and they go, okay, stop blooming. Start just focusing on seed. They put all their energy into seeds. They stop blooming. And so if you take that old flower off and the seed production, the plant actually goes, it freaks out because, oh my gosh, I'm not going to reproduce. I better make sure I put more flowers out so I can possibly create seed. They're trying to replicate and spread across the yard. You're trying to keep them in bloom all the time. When you do that, is just take that old flower off. They call it pinching or deadheading flowers. And that's how you do it. It works for a lot of different plants, echinacеas, coneflowers, gaillardia, but especially lilacs. They really benefit from this. You can keep them going. Otherwise, they'll have less color. They won't bloom as long. They won't bloom as long into the fall of the season. You can easily get another 2 to 3 months of blooms on your lilacs just with that one technique. In addition, so you need to fertilize to put that much flower into reproducing flowers over and over and over. It takes a lot of energy. The plants can't just live off your water, which is terrible, in your clay soil, which is terrible, surrounded by caliche, which is terrible. It's going to need some help from you. We call this gardening. And so you get a bottle of Flower Power, greatest lavender food ever. And so it's a water soluble. So it's got a little scoop in there. Take your watering can, and then you take a scoop for every gallon. You take a scoop, put it in your can, top it off with water. The mistake I find people make with water soluble foods or Flower Power is they take a scoop, they chuck it on the ground, and they just hose it in right there. At least, for the love of gardening, at least get a 5-gallon pail, something. Don't just chuck it on the ground and water it. You can do damage that way. You want to dilute it in a gallon of water first, even a gallon jug. You know what? You're gardening. You need to get a good tool called a watering can. They're cheap. You need 2 of them, one for each hand, because they get heavy, you get lopsided. I can mix up 2 at a time, and I just go water my plants a couple times a month, every 2 weeks. I just take my plants and they just are blooming their heads off because they love the Flower Power. What that is the middle number. It is 48% phosphorus. That middle number, 48%, that's what causes blooms. And it's in a water-soluble form. So as soon as you water that plant in, that plant can take that up just immediately and start making flowers like right now. I mean, it works for all flowering things, but it really works for lavenders. I mean, I put it on my tomatoes, my petunias, calipricollas, lantanas, all my blooming stuff. Every 2 weeks, I give it this Flower Power. But it really makes the fragrance and the richness of the color of your lavenders robust. I mean, it's a game changer. So deadhead and fertilize every 2 weeks is the go-to. That's how you get them to really bloom. If you really want help with that, come ask me. Look for that. I guess, no, I'm not going to publish this. This is just made for folks to pre-order the lavenders we're putting out now. So, but you'll see. But you know what? I'll program it for anyone that buys a lavender. 2 weeks later, they get this Lush Lavender Secrets and how to get your flowers to keep blooming. I think that sounds pretty good. That's it for this segment. We got more for you right after this.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Watters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Watters all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
All right, let's see if we can wrap this thing up. So a couple things I'm really watching in my own garden. My name's Ken. We're just friends. We're neighbors talking over the back fence. This is what I'm seeing in my yard. You'll probably see this in your yard too. Take a look. So I am noticing caterpillars showing up. Caterpillars can be on a few things you got to really be diligent with. One, petunias or geraniums or big flowered annuals. There's a budworm, little tiny cute thing, and whatever flower it eats, it turns that color. So if it's pink flowers, they turn pink. If they're purple flowers, they turn purple. They're really hard to spot. But if you've got holes in your flowers, come see us right away because you've got budworms. If you've had geraniums and they just all of a sudden stop blooming, that's because you've got budworms. They are eating the flowers before they open. So watch for that one. 2, grapes. Grape leaf skeletonizer. Now, I've not seen them yet, but they get on my grapes every year, and it's about time. They seem to show up about right after the budworms. So just be aware. If you see your grape leaves are starting to be, the tissue is being scraped off, and all you see is the veining, that's one thing. a caterpillar. Watch for that. If you see it, we got an organic spray, takes them right out, like instantly obliterates them. But you need to, I guess you can't say obliterate anymore. It's been used like overkill this week. Oh my gosh. So anyway, the other one is tomatoes. I would say tomatoes and potatoes, any of the nightshade families. So there's a huge green tomato called a green tomato worm, not very original name, or that's the adult is a sphinx moth. It's a huge hummingbird-like moth. She's laid eggs around the gardens, and it's about time for them to show up. Now, I'm just seeing a few customers coming in, but I know if I see a few, those are the gardeners because they're really noticing it. Okay, I see some foliage missing. What's up? Tell me how to deal with this. Okay, tomato worm, take this. Your problems are solved. Organic. You can spray them to the day of harvest. You're good. Just watch that. Any foliage disappearing, it's almost guaranteed a caterpillar. And we have an organic spray here called spinosad soap. I'm trying to look at the label in my head. So 25% of all of our sales here is basically pharmacy. We diagnose, help people treat their trees, their shrubs, their flowers, their vegetables, and we do it organically whenever possible. So, I mean, virtually almost every time, including weed killing, all that stuff. But we know plants and we know what to look for. We know about the cycles that they come around. And so don't struggle on your own. Don't wonder what's going on. Don't just add coffee grounds expected to be good. It's not enough. You got to be proactive on this stuff. So a couple garden classes. This week, I'm teaching gardening for newcomers. If you're new to the area, please join us. It's at 9:30 on Saturday, back greenhouse. But next week, we've got simple steps to heal sick gardens. So if your trees looking stressed, you're seeing some foliage, bring your bugs, bring your disease, bring your dead. We'll analyze all that and help you get healthier plants. And then we'll show you how to just have healthier landscapes. That's July 12th. Then July 19th, the big thing right now is privacy. I want a wall. I want a living wall. I want beauty. I want privacy. So there's a lot of homes going up and your backyard's kind of naked and you just feel exposed. We're going to help you design that where it just feels better. Take a look at all those at watersgardencenter.com. On the front page, it just says garden classes. Of course, throughout the week, we're right here at Watters Garden Center and we love helping garden friends.
Watters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, crepe myrtle, and purple verbena.
Purple verbena is mountain famous for gorgeous summer-long flowers held over compact green foliage.
This purple bloomer loves bright gardens, summer heat, and grows best in poor soils with less water.
Go ahead and abuse this bloomer. You can't kill it.
The perfect native perennial for easy summer long flowers.
You'll only find the toughest verbena here at Watters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For a more fruitful garden, increase success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Watters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.